Welcome back to the Echo Chamber, where myself and Noah are just going to get our ideas out on a topic that means a lot to us, blocking out outside sort of other opinions and just keeping it between us.
Last week we had a little bit of a debate about what the echo chamber actually means. In fact, we put the episode in one of our first ever political clients group chats just to highlight it to him. He's quite a high-ranking lawyer. Without any prompt, he got in there and said, Noah, spot on. An echo chamber is when there is one person experiencing a cacophony of their own noise because they're spouting the same ideas back to them. Or a group of people, just the ideas same coming back to them. This brain rot guy thought an echo chamber was only an online term.
That, again, misinformation in real time. You're really good at this, you know. Maybe you should actually
start a podcast.
Yeah, there you go. So anyways, look, the question I want to focus on is this. How do we actually win back the conversation about multiculturalism? And I want to root it in a political framework that we are both accustomed to. So Benedict Anderson is a political philosopher, and he wrote this amazing book called Imagined Communities, which is basically to understand nationalism and understand what the nation really is. And in that, he basically says, it's in the core argument, that the nation is an imagined community, because ultimately, you will never meet every single person in the nation. You might meet your neighbors, you might meet your work colleagues, you might, meet your friends, you see people online, and that's about it. And as such, it's people's imagination that constructs the nation. And so in a lot of the rhetoric that we see online about nationalism and the British nation, etc., we're seeing these big narratives, these overarching themes that, British identity is being corrupted by the other. That other has taken and that other has shapeshifted in many forms. Right now, it's quite clear it's Muslims that people are targeting and saying that this does not belong, or this way of life does not belong with British identity. And so that is used as an example to undermine the entire institution of multiculturalism, pinpointing it as a scapegoat of why things have gone wrong in the country. And so it's a really broad topic, but trying to understand how do we actually talk about multiculturalism in a way that not even necessarily convinces people, but just allows people to understand that this isn't the thing that is making your life go wrong.
My answers are not going to be probably to the liking of people listening and watching at home. But first question, what is multiculturalism? What do you mean by that?
So I think what I mean, right, is the kind of the equilibrium coexistence of multiple people from different cultures, different faiths, different backgrounds, living together. What do you think it is?
Well, no, I agree with you. My point more being this is, I think there is some level of assimilation that is needed for people to interact in like the British society. I think the two problems that Britain has uniquely is because of its colonial history, there is a hollow understanding of what British identity is outside of empire. So people back in domestic Britain are trying to reach for this idea of what Britain is, but the only thing they can do is just othering people. It's that binary oppositionalism that me and you have spoken about before, where people only have a sense of identity relative to the other. I think Britain suffers from that incredibly. The other thing I'll say is that British political values are really underpinned by this idea of liberalism and deliberative democracy, etc., which cherishes the idea that we can have rule of law and order within a situation of reasonable plurality. And we've just done away with that. Is like the British legal system not set up for people to exist alongside each other within a state of reasonable plurality, where they have the private sphere of their own life and the public sphere within which they interact? That's what it seems like, that you just can't abide by a Muslim following the laws in every way, but just being Muslim.
Do you know what's interesting? I saw this video online, and it was one of these kind of like right-wing shows that went into Whitechapel to pretend as if it's this exotic area where these Muslims have taken over the place.
Whitechapel is exotic, but like in a good way. It's exotic like the Caribbean.
But this is what I mean. And they were trying to peddle and play into this narrative that, London's corrupted and things are done. But if you actually understand the dynamics of Whitechapel, you know that, okay, cool, a lot of Bengalis live there, a lot of very strict Muslims live there, but there's also a lot of gay gentrifiers who live there, and they live in peaceful coexistence. And I think there's something here around this idea of experience, because a lot of the people who hold these views I don't think they've actually encountered or, had much lived experience in kind of urban, diverse, multicultural areas. And so something I like to think about is because we're both fairly well-traveled, is like the uncle index. I see here that when it's a hot summer's day in the East End over here, you get real geezers, top off, belly out, pint, right? if I've traveled into Jordan, right, on a hot summer's day, I see all the uncles, they're not belly out, it's under the thobe, but the belly's there, enjoying a cup of tea, drinking some coffee.
Yeah.
And this type of like experience allows you to understand that really people are fundamentally the same, just in different brushstrokes.
I agree with you to a certain extent. But one thing I will say is like there is a tendency on the left to kind of reject right-wing criticism in its entirety, to say, oh no, there's no problem. I think there is a bit of a problem. Like I think there is a bit of like cultural isolation going on, especially in parts of the East End and around the country where communities don't mix with one another. But it actually just takes two to tango.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the maybe the English patriots, quote unquote, they're saying that, oh, they don't integrate. It's like, but do you integrate with them as well? Like they're living, especially if they're living totally within the law. They're not doing anything illegal. These are like citizens of the country that are paying their way and getting by. It's like you can't just like they don't owe it to you. What they owe to you is to like live legally and pay their taxes. They don't owe it to you to come to the pub and like ingratiate themselves and ask your name. In the same way that like you don't have to go to the mosque. But if you are this British patriot who really cares about integration, go and integrate then. Go and make some friends. Like, I'm lucky enough to like have lived in an area where I grew up around loads of Algerians, Bengalis, Somalis, Caribbean people, white people, everything. I went to a Catholic school, Irish, Mediterranean, Polish. But I could have also not integrated, and I could have lived side by side with the Bengalis in Tower Hamlets and Somalis in Tower Hamlets and felt, oh, they just keep to themselves. But I would have been keeping to myself as well.
No, precisely. And I think I do definitely want to do in the future some more thinking around how can we actually create the spaces, or what are the initiatives that people can actually do to make people cross that barrier. So some of my old videos that I've done in the past is literally go into a right-wing march, go into like a Zionist march and just asking people about their opinions and having civil conversations. But I do wonder if there's any sort of like kind of formal vehicles that can exist.
I think honestly, you just got to look for the mediums of interaction that aren't alienating. So yeah, cool. Like the Akis aren't going to come pub with you. The same way that like the EDL man are not going to go mosque. That's just not going to happen. But you might be able to kick ball together. You might be able to get a little ball session down at Power League together. That's fine. But we're not so alien to one another that there aren't those shared mediums of integration. It's just looking for those and not complaining when someone doesn't want to do something with you that's totally outside of their culture.
And the final question on this is then, so what's the reflections on how to win that conversation back then? Because the right seem like they're winning. The right do seem like they have a dominant narrative over the fact that there is a sense of a big kind of cultural inferiority amongst the other.
I don't know if they are winning, because I think just the question is like, so what is this British culture then? Like, if I was like a refugee right now, like just got to London and being told, oh, you're not assimilating, I'd just be asking, so what is this British culture? I'll get involved. Give me an answer and I'll get involved. Obviously, there's certain things I won't be doing, which is totally my right. Like part of British legal society is that I don't have to do certain things. For example, if I'm a Muslim, I'm not going to be coming to get a bacon sarnie with you. But like, I'll come along and maybe get something on the side. I'll get a little fish and chips. If that's what you have to, but just outline to them clearly and not in a way that's othering and we're going to hang the flags and intimidate. What is this British culture that you speak of? Let me get involved. Because I have my understanding of it, and a whole host of different communities are involved.
And that's the question. What is British culture? Leave it in the comments below.